And if it doesn't lead to quote unquote success, it leads to a great story, and it leads to, that that's not going to work. It's not a question. You've tried it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that people get so stuck on failing that they're too scared to try anything. And I think that's the biggest hindrance to most people with everything. It's not just with small business, but you have to be willing to fail.
Hello and welcome back to Splitting Seams. This is episode 2. My name is Shannon and I am your host. I wanted to say thank you so much for the warm welcome and support that the podcast has received since its release. This is happening a few days after the release of the first episode, and so I took the weekend to reflect and listen in on the feedback that I got just across the various platforms in which it was posted or people took the time to comment. And I just want to just thank you so deeply from the bottom of my heart, because this is a passion project for me. And, I really wanted to fill a specific little hole in this bag making community that we have. And the feedback I'm hearing is that it did just that for a lot of you. I don't expect it to be for everyone, but I'm just so happy how well received it was. So our guest today is Niko from Sewgnar, spelled Sewgnar. And Niko is really honestly just an all-around good human. She has a wonderful heart. She is so honest, which I absolutely adore. I adore honesty on all levels. And she really cares deeply about a lot of things, such as humanity, animals, the environment. But as a result, she brings in those kind of like core values that she believes in, and she implements it into her business. And as a result, she uses cork almost exclusively. And for those of you that don't know about cork material, don't worry. We talk about it for almost 30 minutes. So we geek out a little bit. We get into a little bit more of that discussion about some of the misconceptions, some of the things along the lines of some like technical things about cork. But hopefully you enjoy that. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about cork. I don't know if we answer them all, but we sure did talk about it for a while. For those that don't know, I was an avid cork user for almost 3 years, and I really loved the material. But we also discuss other things too, like confidence in ourselves, in our business, and our choices along the way. We talk about opinions on competition in the community, about the market overall, and things about work-life balance, staying connected online, all things like that. So we kind of talk about a lot of different things. It's mainly business focused, so just putting that disclaimer out there. But she is just such a wonderful speaker, and she explains her thoughts and her feelings so well, and in a way that I really enjoyed listening to. As you should be seeing, the episode is quite a long one, and I think that that's pretty awesome that she was willing to talk with me for that long. I think we probably could have talked for another hour or two, honestly. It's really nice to connect with her, and when I first met her over a year ago in person, I was so excited to meet her, because everything she portrayed online was that she was just very much her authentic version of herself at all times. And so when I got to meet her, that was truly what it was. It was someone who I just truly felt that, I knew that I could trust the words coming out of her mouth, and I knew that I wanted to hear more of them. And so she didn't disappoint last year. She didn't disappoint in the interview that we had, and I really hope that you enjoy it too. So without further ado, here is Niko. Hey, Niko.
Hello.
How are you?
How's it going?
I'm here. So first of all, thanks for being here.
Of course.
Second of all, Niko, I need some clarification here, because I struggle with this. So you have a nickname, Niko. Your actual name is Nicole.
Yeah.
Did Niko was that always your nickname, or is that like something that you developed in the sewing world?
Oh, it was definitely nicknamed pre-sewing world.
Okay.
It started in high school and it was always what people called me, but I never really referred to myself as Nico until I got into the sewing world. I always kind of fancied myself like a Prince or a Madonna, not like in famous wise or anything like that, but in one name, because I just never liked my last name growing up. So I went to Nicole Nico, and then I just kind of whatever people want to call me, I respond to.
That I'm glad to know that because when I learned of you as Nicole. And
Yeah,
so at some point in the last few years, I kept saying Nico, and I'm like, I'm not, I don't have the
that's
right to call
Lauren.
her Nico.
Oh, Lauren calls me Nico. Yeah, she's always called me Nico. I don't know why that stuck with her, but I think it's confusing because when I sign off on emails or my business cards, they all say Nicole, and I'll say like Nicole Nico, so people think it's my whole name. I just really like to keep everybody on their toes.
Okay. So what is your preference so that I'm making sure that I am referring to you, or do you not really have a preference?
Truly no preference at all. I think Nico is cool, but I don't know if I live up to that. So I always call myself Nicole, but you can call me whatever you want.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Um, okay. So for those that don't know who you are, what your business name is, can you, I hate to do that because it's always so, awkward a little bit, but um, so your business is Sewgnar,
Hmm.
um, which I have to say real quick that I never put together how that's spelled out with how it sounds until like last year, right before the Wizardry Getaway.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm excited. I get to go meet Nicole from Sewgnar. And I was like, Sewgnar. I got it now. And then it really made me happy. And I felt really silly that it had been however many years that, you know, I did not put
Well, it's
those things
also,
together.
sorry to interrupt, but it's
No.
also, there's another little double entendre in there. And it's, my logo is a narwhal, which they use sonar to echolocate in the ocean. So it's all like double, triple. I did used to say that they use sonar to communicate. And then I had, I think like a 7-year-old correct me when I was vending. He said it's actually echolocation. So I have to be aware of that whenever I'm explaining that to people because there is a slight difference. But yeah, that all goes together. Only the
No.
cool people really get it.
And I love that. It felt so silly to me that it took so long. So anyway, that was a little tangent that I felt like I needed to tell you that, because I really felt a little dumb, but it is what it is. We all get
So
there
listen,
eventually.
being totally transparent, I never put it together until somebody pointed it out to me. I just liked narwhals and the name was already previously chosen and I just put them together and somebody else pointed it out. So I didn't, that wasn't my intention. So
Okay.
don't feel silly. I didn't know
I
about
feel
it.
way
And then
better.
so many people kept pointing out to me all of these links and I was like, you're smarter than me. I didn't, there was no intention behind that.
So we all have our own journey to
Yeah.
getting to this point of your name. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your business.
Okay. So my name's Nicole. So I have been kind of, it's kind of like a it's a tangled web. It all kind of the thread goes back really far. But so as far as Sonar goes, I have been self-employed as a seamstress with Sonar since 2018. January 1st, 2018 was when I went LLC'd, legitimate, started paying too many taxes. Um, yes. Yeah, I'm working on my monthly sales tax right now, and it is so annoying. But so 2018 I started and I was just selling my handcrafted items. I would vend, I called myself like a weekend warrior. I was just out there pounding the pavement, selling my stuff. At that point I had been working with cork and my product line moved fully to cork and it slipped into this accessories genre that I am now in totally. And then sometime I probably should have looked this up, but 2019, 2020, well no, it had to be 2019. I started Sonar sewing patterns, kind of an offshoot of Sonar, where I started writing the patterns for the items that I had on my vending table.
Okay.
And then I've
Okay.
been just kind of rolling with that. Both, it's kind of two separate entities, which can be a little confusing, especially like marketing, social media, things like that. Um, it's kind of like managing two separate businesses, two different clienteles, two different schedules. So yeah, it keeps me
Right.
busy.
So like your sewing patterns are one part, or one kind of half of the business, and you mean the other half is selling the made products.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
So totally, and that's a whole lot to juggle too, because each one of those is its own and business entirely. It doesn't, and when you're crossing over, it really can make things just a lot to juggle for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't something that I had initially realized was going to be so convoluted when I it was a natural progression to put out my patterns, but then the pattern company kind of grew legs on its own and it
Hmm.
grew into something bigger than I had anticipated, which is a fantastic problem to have. But it makes things a little bit trickier. My customer base can kind of be a little confused based on what I'm posting, and so yeah,
Hmm.
it's real
Absolutely.
fun. Yeah.
So you started out. I had a misconception. I thought that you had released your sewing patterns earlier than the wallets and the accessories you had been selling, because
Mm-mm.
you had been selling them for a couple years before you released your pattern then. So like you
I
had
would,
like
yeah.
solidified those designs years before that.
Yes. So it kind of, again, it's kind of, everything is so intertwined. So I was a teacher, to like back it up just a little bit. I was a preschool teacher, went to college, had all my credentials, all that stuff, moved my way up to a director position at the school, loved it. But I was sewing the whole time in the background. My husband and I had a brick and mortar store in Durango, Colorado. He's a tattoo artist. I'm a seamstress, and my studio was in the store. And that's when we were 2611 Art. And so we were all enmeshed, but I had been sewing that entire time and I had started working with cork then. So probably around 2014-ish was when I got my first roll of cork from Portugal. Um, so things happened with work and I made the jump into Sewgnar full time. Late 2017, did the LLC, all that 2018. So I had been selling my wares on the streets to people, getting feedback, getting usage feedback, seeing how the cork held up, seeing how my designs held up for years by the time I started writing patterns. And I only wrote or begun to wrote, that's not correct, began to write patterns when I was kind of egged on by a quilt shop owner. She said she would see my stuff and say, like, we need to teach people how to do this. And so she was a big genesis for why I started writing patterns. And then it kind of fed into Talia at Fabric Fun House, needed a face for her design, for her work, and just all kind of steamrolled together. And here we are. That's many years later.
So you work almost exclusively with cork, right? Like you have branched out into other materials here and there. Like I'm sure that you use cotton, and wax canvas and stuff, but like you shy away, which total respect for, like no judgment for, from vinyl, faux leather, things like that. Um, so with that being said, I've known of you as an avid cork user for years. I was also an avid cork user for years. And actually, so I did this with Lauren too. I'm supposed to at some point say how we know each other and how we met pretty early in the episode. And of course, here we are a couple minutes in, which is
Yeah.
fine. But I don't know if you know this, but back in 2020, there was a quilt con in Austin, and my friend had invited me, and I was like, okay, I'll go. And by that time, I made the choice in 2019 to do fully cork as well. It's
Hmm.
just such a gorgeous material. It's so pretty. It's like the prettiest material. And but I knew Fabric Funhouse was going to be there. And so I go there and we're like looking at all these quilts and stuff. And like, I love quilting. I just don't do quilting. I love to look at it. And there's always amazing displays at any quilt con, right?
Yeah.
So we're walking around and everything. And I'm like, oh, here's Fabric Funhouse. And the lady, I'm horrible with names, but one of the owners of Fabric Funhouse was like, "Oh, this is Nicole from Sewgnar," and I'm like, "Okay, hi." Like, I don't know who you are. Um, my progression of being part of the sewing community was that I was in a small bubble. My bubble expanded, and now I'm back to shrinking my bubble. And so at that point, I was in the small bubble, so I wasn't really aware of who you were yet. And so, of course, you have no idea who the hell I am. And so then I go home, and then later on, I see your name, and I'm like, oh, that's her. And then that's when I bought some of your patterns and sewed some of them up, and like that's kind of how I knew of who you were. Um,
Oh.
and but anyway,
Wait,
so
so you were at Quilt Market or Quilt in Houston? You said Austin, but I've never been to Austin for that.
it was definitely in Austin. It was a quilt con.
What was I there, or was she
I'm
just with my stuff?
I'm pretty sure you were there, and I recognized seeing you and your colorful, beautiful hair. Like it was very distinctive.
Oh, yeah, it was
But
short back then. I remember that one.
maybe I'm making that up. We'll have to
Well,
fact check that.
I did go to one with Talia from Fabric Funhouse, but it was in Houston. It was like the big one where all the shops could come, and then we did sample spree. But I don't know. Honestly, my memory is so bad. I don't know what
No.
it stems from, but it's been like this my whole life. So, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to fact check that. We'll have to look
Yes,
up.
we'll
I'll
have
have
to
to look at
see.
my photos.
I feel like it was in March, but that is okay. So people will learn over time that when I say I feel like something is this, it's 100% wrong all of the time. I'm like,
Well,
oh, the name starts with this. So
that would make sense for a con because those are always in the spring and the market is always in the fall. So that lines up. So far, we're on good footing here. But I don't ever remember going to one of those. But I mean,
yeah, and you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. So if it was in 2020, it would have been our first year here in Texas, and so we're in San Antonio, and it was a friend of mine who lives here, and my husband, COVID hadn't hit yet.
hmm
So that would have been January, February, maybe very beginning of March, but it wouldn't have been the end of March because by that time COVID was in
mm-mm.
full swing, and so
Yeah,
it
we
would
were
have never
shut down.
happened. So
So
we'll have to see.
I'm pretty sure I went in October of 2019, but history is not my jam. So
True, and so we didn't show up in Texas until January 1st or December 31st of 2019. So I wasn't even in existence here at that
maybe we
point.
just met in the simulation in another.
Maybe. Yeah, that's probably right. We're going down
Yeah,
this rabbit hole here of neither one of us having a proper recollection of what happened. But that's the story that
could be
I've told
anything.
myself over these years. So I'm just gonna stick to it. Is what's gonna happen. Um,
That's perfect with me. Yeah. There's no telling. Oh well, we know
so
each
much has
other now.
happened between now and then. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Going to hit pause on the podcast just for a second so that I can give you the results of the fact check. It is pretty early in the episode, so I felt like referring back to it towards the end would kind of mess with the flow a little bit. But Niko was in Alaska that weekend, and I completely fabricated this event in my mind. I did go to QuiltCon. I have pictures of that. Niko was not there. So I don't know what happened at the Fabric Funhouse booth that made me think something, that it was Niko or something along those lines. Maybe I just saw a sign that said Sewgnar, with a picture. I don't really have any idea, but she was not there. We did not meet in person until last year at the getaway. So back to the show. You have been working with cork exclusively, and so I know that you, as a person, you are just an advocate across the board for like people, animals, the environment, all of that, and I absolutely respect that, and that's a big reason why you've decided to go down the cork path. And
hmm
so, how did you find that? Like, how did you find out about cork? And have you learned anything new about it along the way since starting using it?
So when my husband and I owned the shop in Durango, and that was where my studio was, I was making stuff out of designer cotton. So like Moda, rifle paper,
Mm,
all the heavy hitters. I was using all those Tula Pink, and I was interfacing and stabilizing and doing all the things, but I found that it wouldn't, for my liking, I learned that I like a very structured bag that will hold its shape over time. It wasn't quite holding up exactly how I had
yeah.
envisioned. And so I don't know where I spotted court for the first time. I want to say I was just cruising online. It was probably So Decine from Hawaii. She used to
Okay.
make are you familiar with
I,
her?
the name is striking me, but of course, again, names I'm horrible with, but I know
Exactly.
of that name, but I could never pinpoint who it was until you showed me.
Well, so she used to do this design with these little triangles, and it was almost like flying geese, but not. It was like an applique
Yes, I
situation.
think
Do
I
you know what I'm
remember
talking
it
about?
now. Yes, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure.
And sh
Yeah.
and she made these gorgeous bags, and they were made of cork. And I was like, "What? Like, how do you sew with cork? Like, what is this?" And so I started researching it, and it all kind of snowballed at the time, excuse me, that I was looking for vegan alternatives, like alternatives to leather. Like I wanted something that held up. I wanted something that was kind to the environment. I wanted something that was sustainable. And so just it all kind of happened at the same time. And I ordered a piece of cork. So back then you could only get cork in four options. You can get like the natural or the surface. You can get what I call granada. They're all right there where they're just out of reach. Granada, which is like the one that looks like kind of like Carrera marble. You could
Hmm.
get bamboo is what it was called then, but it's I think Fabric Fun House calls it stripped, and then you could get birch, which looks like trees. Those
Yes.
are the only four colorways that you could get. There was no fancy printing, there was no
Hmm.
actual colors. And I ordered it directly from Portugal, and I was smitten. But I was very reticent because it was so expensive. And at that
It's
point
so expensive.
it was so expensive. And I mean it's still that price has not dropped in
Correct.
all these years. Has not dropped. The plus side of getting it directly from Europe is you get it by the meter, so it's bigger than by the yard, and so whatever. But you have to import it and customs and all that jazz. So yeah. So long story short, I ordered 1 meter of natural cork. I made a necessary clutch wallet, and it was game over. That's ever since then. So I went from clothing and cotton bags. I was a huge swoon head. Like I made all of her patterns. I love Alicia's patterns. I think they're timeless, elegant.
Perfect.
Um,
Classic, like classic shapes, classic styles.
Classic, but challenging to make. So I would find myself getting you know skill building in all of the patterns. Sometimes ripping my hair out, like getting upset at how hard it was to come together. So I just started slowly incorporating things like with cork, and I would do like the little accent pieces and the snap tabs, and then I was like, well, I wonder, what it would look like in all cork. And then I finally started making the jump to fully cork and really slipped fully into the accessories, wallets, things like that. And I did like my first huge cork order. It was so big for me, and it got stuck in customs for like 2 months, and it got all moldy, and it was a whole thing. But yeah, so discovered cork a long, long time ago, but the complete genesis of it was I wanted to find a vegan alternative to leather that could withstand daily use.
And felt like a high quality product. That's something that I feel like is harder to find when you're going in, the plastic based route of vinyls and
Yeah.
faux leathers. It's a toss up, and there's so many variations, and it's especially then is even harder to shop for because pictures were minimal. You just kind of got the color and maybe the texture.
Hmm.
You didn't really know how it felt, how it acted, and things like that. And the thing about cork material is that it's like the structure is truly, you cannot find a vinyl that is similar in structure to cork.
You mean
It's
like the texture of it?
I mean, like, I'm sorry, I mean like the structure, like the
Oh, like,
like how it
yeah,
stands on its own, and like how
sure.
it has its own very unique structure, and a really great one too. Like it's I love cork. My issue with cork was just that I was over time when I was selling my bags, I was that obviously the price was getting higher and higher as it's
Hmm.
supposed to, and then I got to a point where I just felt like the patterns and the things I was using that I was using my cork for weren't working well with the cork. Cork is one of those
Hmm.
materials where you need to listen to its rules. You can't make it do your rules. And so I was trying to manipulate it and make it work. And these patterns the bags that I was selling, and the price got so high of the bag. And with time, the wear and tear in those areas where it just got too tight of a seam, too much bulk or
Hmm.
whatever, then I was like, man, I can't sell a bag for this high and have it be, wear out in those corners
Sure.
and things like that over time. But like that's just I'm a firm believer in the right tool for the right job, the right material for the right project, and like cork is just
Absolutely.
not the right material for every project. I still
It's
love
not,
it.
and I think it's interesting because we all have the things that we're after in the textiles that we use, right? So like
Yes.
obviously I want longevity and I want
Yes.
it to be able to withstand daily use and things like that. But I also know the limits of cork. And because of those limits, and I'm not willing to not use it, I have to be very upfront with people when
Yeah.
they're purchasing
Transparent.
it. And so I do that. Like when I'm vending, I have a wallet that my friend carried for 7 years. And you can see exactly where it wore. You can see where the color rubbed off. You could see the inside where it's perfectly fine because it didn't get a whole lot of
Yeah.
external, it didn't get messed with a whole lot. So there are different things that you have to pay attention to, but I also will supplement with other textiles for like the base of bags and things like that. But yeah, cork is definitely it's a natural substance.
Exactly.
And that's what I think a lot of people have they have these ideas behind it. And I'm like, it's not skin. It's not like cow skin. It's not going to act like leather. It's not plastic base, so it's not going to have that
Stretch.
same exactly. Yeah, it
Right.
just it doesn't have that.
Right. When I've explained the limitations of cork with people, I like to say, like, when you sew a seam on cork, you're you're technically like perforating the finish of that cork, and
Hmm.
you know it can withstand a lot. But the second that you also stretch and bend away that seam from where you've just sewn, it can only go so far. It's not going to stretch like skin. It's not going to stretch like plastic. It is a
Exactly.
natural product. It has limitations. Your skin is only going to stretch so far. So like the same thing with any natural sort of fiber or anything. It's going to have limitations. And so,
Hmm.
but that's what I think I love so much about your patterns is that you respect those limitations wholeheartedly, especially in your wallets and things like that, with using cork and sewing in the way that you do. You have a lot of edge painting that comes into play because you leave these edges raw. But like
Hmm.
if you were to fold over those edges instead of edge painting them, that edge is just going to wear down over time and it's not going to look as nice as if you would have edge painted it. So I really appreciate that, you stick to your guns, that, you are choosing the more sustainable material that is better for the environment. It looks really high end. Truly, it's hard to not love cork. You don't always have to love the price of cork. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's offensive for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's eh, so you but you're also respecting its limits while you're choosing to make these choices too. And, also selling the products too, having to be transparent. But the thing about cork also is that like that you punch a hole in cork, it's that hole will barely ever stretch over time. It's such a great material.
It's so crazy. And that's what I tell people. Like, I've been working with cork for so long. I keep trying to find its edge. And certainly there are things that it doesn't love to do. It will do them, but it will show the wear. You can make it work. The backing is really coming into play to save that seam in that case. But cork is just I love it so much. I love the sustainability of it. I love the longevity. I love the colors that you can get it in. I think it's a fantastic talking point, like conversation. Everybody thinks that it's leather at my table. When they find out that it's cork, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen it
Yeah.
like this." I mean, I could write a book of the one-liners that I hear, like, "Oh,
Yeah.
do you recycle wine corks?" Like all of those funny jokes.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, just with everything, it has its limitations. And at the end of the day, what I tell people is I'm like, it's wood, it's tree bark.
Yeah.
Like what are you, how, even if you shaved a piece of thin balsa wood and you sewed it, how do you think it would act? So
Right.
I have to temper people's expectations. And I do think that because we do have all this fantastic long lasting vinyl on the market, like in the Moras and the things of that nature, people think that that is just going to cross over into every other textile. And that's just not true. There's even a huge swing in cottons. You can get art
Hmm.
gallery cotton for rifle paper. Their bases are way different. And
Yeah.
it's true with every single textile. And that's why you need to know how to interface, stabilize, you need to know what you're getting
Yeah.
into, and you need to know its limits and be pragmatic in your use of it. there's no one size fits all with anything in sewing.
Correct. So I have something so you have used cork a lot more and a lot longer than I have. And so I want to know what your stance is on this, and then we'll see how wrong I am. That's how we'll phrase that. So one thing that I see a lot of people uh, comment when somebody asks about cork cracking and things like that. You know, I I have this belief. This is my tinfoil
Mhm.
hat theory that your cork isn't cracking. You have perforated your material over time, right? And that like you've hit the limits of its stretch. So when it's folded over really tightly on itself, it can't stretch that far. It then separates. That top layer separates, right? And people will say, put leather conditioning on it and it will help it stretch further, do all this, but they don't really take in that kind of like think about it a little bit harder, that critical thinking of what this material is. But I could be wrong. I've never done that, but I've always thought about it from the point of view of like, you're just hitting the limit of how far that fiber is going to stretch in the use case that you have it. So, am I completely wrong in that? Which I'm allowed to be wrong. So, we're just going to preface it with that. But, like, do you add leather conditioning? Do you tell people to do leather conditioning? Does it make a difference? Do you see, or do you just not?
Okay, so I'm going to preface this with, and this is what I always tell everybody. I use cork a lot, but I'm never going to claim to be an expert on it.
Fair.
And you'll hear why in just a second. At the end of the day, I think one of the biggest attractions for cork for me was you didn't have to interface it. You could use it just straight off the roll. And I love that. I've always called myself a lazy seamstress. I stick to that. Um, and so I just keep that in mind whenever I answer. I have never used leather conditioner. I've never tried it. I have never wanted to purchase it to use it. And quite honestly, if, pulling in some of those critical thinking skills, if you look at a piece of cork, you're talking it's 1 millimeter thick,
Yeah.
including the backing. So
Yeah.
it is an incredibly thin piece of cork,
Yes.
which is another reason why I think it's so miraculous as a textile, because even that thin
Yes.
can withstand so much. However, if you are sewing over something over and over, yes, you're going to perforate it. When it's cracking, I think what I've noticed, I can say in my experience, the corks that crack that I've seen are the printed corks, and
Mm-hmm.
what's cracking is the ink. The ink is
Yeah.
stretching, the ink is
Yes.
breaking. The cork itself is not cracking. I have seen the corks where the pieces are like smashed together. So like your birch, your stripped,
Yeah.
your granadas, anything that's not one smooth
Yeah.
fell piece, those are going to have a proclivity of cracking because they're already cracked.
Right. They're already
So
individual pieces all layered together.
exactly, they're already cracked. So yes, when you put it on a hard turn, it can have a higher proclivity of cracking. But to answer your question, I've never used cork conditioner, leather conditioner. I know that people sell it. I know that some people have used it, but I'm also curious of that answer. I have no idea. In my long-term use of cork, I have never once conditioned or lotioned or anything beyond letting it absorb my body oils from daily use.
Fair. Okay. So that I
So
appreciate
neither
that.
of us know. Yeah.
No, neither one of us know. We can just have our
Yeah.
own thoughts about it and not buy leather
Yeah.
conditioner, and we'll never know unless somebody else answers that question for us, which is totally fair.
I
Um,
Yes, if somebody knows, please weigh in.
yeah. Uh, I find that a lot in the sewing community is that everybody has their own tinfoil hat theories that they like to subscribe to and they share them. And, I'm always open to reading them, but, unless I really feel like it or unless I have the materials, I'll just never really know how true that claim is. So, I will be happy to hear anyone else's feedback. I still may be the skeptic at heart and not believe them though, because that's
I
how I
think
am.
that it's based on how you want to use a product, and that I think that's rings true for every single
So true.
textile in sewing. It's how you want to use it, what its intended use is, the lifetime you're looking for. Those are all different factors that come into play. And in my experience using cork for what I use it for, I have not had a need or a desire to use those products because I like the way that it wears. And I think that's a big part
Exactly.
of it too. I appreciate that it wears like that because it it reminds me that it's still a natural substance and that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen. So
It has a lot
I
of
like all of
character.
that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And also, like, I think that, I like to say one liners to myself, but expectations are resentments waiting to happen. If you make a bag with any material, if your expectation is that this bag with whatever material you chose and the way you made it is going to last you forever. If you buy a bag from me and you think that that bag is going to last you in the most perfect condition ever for years, that is an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
And so, like, I always jokingly say, I hate seeing a bag that I made years down the road because the best it will ever look is in my sewing room. And so I don't want to see you beating it up. So like I have a
Yeah.
hard time gifting my bags to my family and like having them seeing their bags over time. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like there's no more cotton on that anymore. I'm looking at
Yeah.
the interfacing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how it is with my wallets because thankfully, I have a lot of support from my friends and family. And so at any given point, if you look around our friend group, they've got my wallet or bag and they have Brandon's tattoos. It's kind of cool. We're all very like
I just
supportive of
love
each
that.
other. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of us are entrepreneurs and we're all very much each other's biggest fans. But the amount of times I take people's wallets and I'm snipping all the threads, I'm burning them. And now these are wallets that I haven't sealed the edges or put Mod Podge or edge paint on because they're so old that I didn't do that back
Yeah.
then. But I'm like, does this hair, it doesn't bother you? It's like you hold up a trifold wallet and it's got hair coming every which way. Like none of this bothers you. And they're like, no, I think it's cool. Like what? First of all, what's wrong with you? You're crazy. Like, let's burn these off. But yeah,
Right.
I go down
Right.
the line of all my friends and I'm like, let me see your stuff. Let me burn all the edges. Let me trim this up. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I think it's time for an upgrade. Like we need to trade this in for a new model because I I think the most used I have ever seen a wallet was my buddy. It was after Hurricane Helene. We all went to get pizza. It was the only place that we could find that was open. And he came from Asheville. He had been stuck on his property for days. I mean, we were all like feral, unshowered, the whole 9 yards. It was a rough time.
The best kind of
But
time.
yeah, we all met up to like do quality or like, proof of life essentially. And he pulled out his wallet and it was just all backing. He had zip ties on it, and it just had like a patch of cork. And I was like, Kevin, bro, can we? And he's like, no, it's great. It's still going fine. Like, all right, there does need to be like some d- limit here, but I can always tell how old my wallets are by the tags because I've gone through a lot of iterations of my tags.
Okay.
And that was definitely an old one. I was still living in Colorado when he bought that, so it was a long time ago.
Oh
But
man.
yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. And if the
And it's
cork
amazing
breaks
how
down,
long.
the backing will last.
Right. Yes. Like the backing. I really want them to take the backing that's on cork and just kind of repeat that on some vinyl. Um, you know, I still love cork. I just like I said, I have a hard time using it now. Just if I'm at the price point of and the bags that I'm making, and it has no judgment. I went through 3 years maybe of
I remember
like
your cork
exclusive
bag.
cork.
I remember.
Hmm.
I remember
I
them, and
loved it
I think it's different too. Like if like I've tried with vinyl, it's just like this mental block that I have. I like
for
the organic
sure.
texture, and so I think that when you dabble in both worlds of vinyl and cork, vinyl is going to be your preference because the price point it's more readily available in lots of different prints and fun colors and things like that. So I think if you straddle the fence, most people are going to lean towards vinyl. It makes
Yeah.
sense. It's an expensive product for sure.
But I just always like, I had to make it was when also it was that the price point, but also that I when I released my first pattern, I used cork because of course why wouldn't I? I used cork and cotton because we love that and that's what I was
Was
doing at
that
the
the
time.
Mayfield?
It
Was
was
that
the Gaia.
The Mayfield back then? Oh, the Gaia, yes. Okay.
Yes. And everyone was like, do I have to make it in cork? Do I have to make it in cork? Because everything I had made up until that point was like cork. And so I had to venture out and invest in some vinyl to have available as well. And so obviously I love Mora. That's a really great material. And there's a few other ones, but also it's like every shop has their own version of a vinyl. There's a
Yeah,
lot of inconsistencies. Not every shop is going to have the same color stocked over and over and over again. There's only a few shops that have consistency like that. So, like for me, that was really tough because once you found a good cork supplier, it was like, well, I know I'm going to have these X amount of colors to choose from, and I'm going to get this same quality every time. And with
that's
vinyls,
true.
like it's going to have this weight, or it's going to show wrinkles, or it's going to melt, or it's going to do this. And it was a huge learning process for me to even sew with vinyl. And now I have it, and I miss the consistency of cork. I miss the reliability of it for sure. And
I
I
never
still
even
have
thought
some.
about that. Those are
Yeah.
all things that I don't have to pay attention to. People ask me about vinyl. I'm like, I couldn't tell you. I don't. But yeah, that's true with every shop. There's so many amazing small businesses in our community. But yes, everybody has their own version of their like vinyl and the backing. And yeah, I
hmm
imagine that can get very confusing.
Yeah, it does. And, like I said, only so many of them keep things in stock, especially, and that's only really started happening the last like few years. Before that, it was just like, this is what I have, and like, who knows what box I'll get next time, or like, I'm just going to do
Hmm.
this one run for this one pre order and then good luck. And even that, I feel like the expansion of vinyl has really happened in the last 4 years or so of like really what's available. And no, I didn't want to just. I hope it didn't come off that way of just like kind of shit on cork. I'm not. I love cork, but it does have limitations, and I think a lot of people have a lot of questions
Yeah,
about that. And hopefully, I think we kind of answered them too. But I really think the big thing with cork is expectations. Go in understanding the
absolutely.
product.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a lane for everybody and not it's just like literally everything in the world. Like not
hmm
everybody's gonna like everything,
hmm
and that's my jam and it might not be the next person's jam. And I mean it is what it is. And I think if people can like go in eyes wide open, know what they're getting and understand its limitations on everything, then
Exactly.
everybody will be a lot happier.
Yeah, I mean, we can hope. We can hope.
Yeah, within reason, let's be honest.
Within reason, right?
Yeah.
So, one thing that we've established about you throughout just this first 30 minutes or so was that, you are unapologetically and authentically yourself in every way, and not only that, right, but like with that comes a confidence of putting that forward. At least I will say, at least what I perceive to be. I understand what others perceive to be confidence. You could be melting inside and nobody would know. I am that kind of person. Perfect masking. Okay, dying inside. Love that for me. But you know you have your husband who's a tattoo artist, and you said you have a big family, right? And
Mhm.
you said you have multiple entrepreneurs in your family. Where do
Mhm.
you think that, like, if you can pinpoint this, which you may not be able to, and also I could be off base, but where do you think like that confidence and that, like, you know what, I don't really give a shit. I'm gonna do what I want to do in my business, use the products I want, do the things that I want. I'm going to stay, not to say that you're staying in your lane, but you're really sticking to your own personal sort of like wants and desires and what's important to you. And where does that kind of confidence come from if you could pinpoint it?
Um, well, a couple caveats here. There is plenty of times when I'm not confident at all, and it's the fake it till you make it situation.
Sure.
And I learned how to do that because I do have a large family. I have seven brothers, one sister. You have to fight to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, oh, well, almost everybody in my family is loud and obnoxious, just like me. So, in order to have your place, you have to own it. And I mean, I always joke that when the apple fell down my family tree, it hit every single branch because I am my mother's daughter. She is just as loud and annoying as I am. I love you, Mom, if you're watching this. But everybody, especially the women in our family, are very strong and very feet firmly planted in our beliefs. Now, that's not to say that we can't have a conversation and change our minds and things like that, but we have convictions. And there are certain things that I know nothing about, but I'll be the first one to say like, "Whoa, like, can you explain this to me?" Or
Hmm.
I think probably where my confidence comes from is I know that I have put a lot of effort into researching and hearing different viewpoints and trying things myself before deciding this is where I stand on any given topic, whether it be about anything in the whole world. Um, and I certainly don't know a lot. I always joke like I'm not an expert in my field. I just do it on camera. So you guys think that I am. I'm just as lost as everybody else. I just do it online for you to watch.
You do it on
Um,
a stage, right?
yeah. And now that I've never really been shy. I I've always had a good time being in front of people. So this kind of process of becoming this person that I am today isn't totally out of the realm. It didn't shock anybody, I don't think. But it might surprise people to know that I wouldn't even label myself as an extrovert. Like I'm firmly in both camps of introvert, extrovert. I think being self-employed definitely pushed me more into the introvert because this is a lot of my interaction. Um, but where did it come from? I mean, my mom always like she was a single mom with 3 kids and she hustled. She got her shit done. And she was a really good example of how like there's just do it. There's put one foot in front of the other and make it happen. And I have seen through my family, goodness is rewarded. Goodness begets goodness. And I think that when I move through the world, whether it be in my business or my personal life, I just try to come from authenticity and like from the highest light. Like, don't get me wrong, I can be a catty bitch, I can gossip, I can do all the things that everybody else can, but I don't like to live in that
Yeah.
because the aforementioned goodness begets goodness. And so I like to just put out what I want to get back. That being said, if people are rude to me or mouthy, I have no problem dishing it back out. But I don't know. I feel like I kind of lost the main question, but I think it was like, where does my confidence come
Yeah.
from? And I don't know, different sources, but I will say half the time I'm not confident. It just seems like I am because I'm the loudest.
That, I mean, I respect that. And also, I think over time when you have a business, you learn how to put on that face of like, I may not know what I'm talking about fully, but I know that nobody else is going to do this for me. So I have to figure it out and I have to stand my ground. I have to make my choices and just hope for the best and present
Well, and I
confidence.
will say exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's the fake it till you make it vibe. Like I
Hmm.
literally have caught myself every single aspect of my business and I'm wearing all of the hats. And,
Yeah.
when you're spinning that many plates, some things fall from the wayside and that happens. Um, but I think it has to get done. And
Yeah.
I'm the only one that can do it the way that
Exactly.
I want to do it, so I'm going to do it. But yeah, it's confidence is a work in progress for
For
sure.
sure. Yeah. Well, I will say that you do a really great job of presenting it, even if you don't feel it.
Well,
Um,
thanks.
yeah,
So
you're
do you,
welcome.
by the way.
Oh,
So do
thank
you, by the
you.
way. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like I said, I'm an amazing masker, but
Well,
my
I
hands are
think
nearly
yeah.
dripping. We love that.
Yeah, see,
It's
I
funny.
don't I there are other things I've done in my life that now when I think back about, I've never actually sat and thought about like, I wonder if this is out of their own possibility for people that would have met me years and years ago. Well, like I was in a circus and I used to get on stage and do the knife throwing act and I ran for student council and I was like in school, I was friends with everybody. So I think that the brazenness that comes with just like plowing forward 99% of the time, if you do that with good intentions, I find that it works out.
Yeah. I mean, and I find that I'm just not a person like I'm confident in some things. I think my business is what I'm most confident in. Like I built it. I can stand behind it.
Hmm.
I have that feeling there. But like it's the confidence that I don't have, the self-confidence in my own person, in my own being. I think that comes into play a lot for me. And there's also exposure therapy too, like the first time that I did my poor little video on the Gaia, I was like sitting 10 feet away from the camera. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like now I don't even really get nervous before I do my lives, and
Yeah.
like the difference in how I felt in episode 1 and how I felt today before we got on this call. Like, I felt so different. And it's really just kind of getting over those humps. And, you learn, you grow, you do something that's
Mhm.
hard, you survive, you realize it wasn't as hard as you made it out to be. And then you keep going, you just keep going because nobody else is going
Exactly.
to do it in your business. Like,
Exactly. And I
nobody.
do think that there's something to be said about that whole like 10,000 hours makes you an expert thing. I was just talking to somebody about that recently, and they asked me in terms of me and sewing, and I'm not an expert at sewing. I'm like, well, hold on. So if that's the rule, 10,000 hours makes you an expert or a professional at something, then we have hit that years ago. That 10,000 hours, I did the monthly or the breakdown, like the number breakdown, and I
Yeah.
figured out how many years it would take. I forgot because the aforementioned bad memory. Um, but we've all hit that mark like years ago. So I think for me too is I hope that maybe one day I can be confident enough to be like, you know what, I am an expert in sewing with cork, but I will never like that's not even imposter syndrome. That's just knowing what I don't know.
I
And
think that's such a strength.
I think that rises in, and that's what I'm attracted to in other people, especially in this industry, is the humility to be like, I don't know, teach me. I'm a
Yeah.
sponge, let me learn. But
Yes.
I think that there's something to be said about when you spend your whole all day every day doing this one thing. Like I have no problem calling you a professional, but I'm not going to label myself that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
a weird, it's weird. Like I can look at you and see your progress and success. And I remember following you from years and years and years ago and be like, man, she is like so precise, and just like really looking up to you for that and like really
Thank you.
looking for I love, and of course your videos, we've talked about this outside of the podcast, but like the way that you film and the way that you write your patterns and your attention to detail and all of those things are very like I look up to you for that, and so I think it's easy for us to hand the baton to other people in our industry,
Exactly.
but if we're being realistic, we're all doing it. And that feels weird for
You're
me to
right.
even say because that would mean that I have to admit it. But I mean, it's,
That's okay. We can
anyways,
still
yeah,
live in blissful ignorance. It's fine.
yeah.
Um,
For some reason, people look to us for guidance, and I think it's funny, but here we are.
I know. But you had said, you know that you don't know everything essentially. And I, whenever somebody tells me that, or when they make that remark, that's something my husband and I have talked about a lot. I think that is when your brain already works that way of understanding that there's just so much you don't know. And I think that some personality types just don't kind of clock that a little bit. They're like, I know what I need to know and I'm fine. And other people are like,
Hmm.
well, I know what I know and I'm able to work in it. But I also know that there's so much more to learn and I'm willing to get there. And I think that is such a smart and healthy way for your brain to function. And I just don't think that everyone has that. And so that alone is a strength to understand that you just don't know everything. And it's something that, we also instill in our kiddo all the time,
Hmm.
question, be a skeptic about yourself as well.
Hmm.
Like a skeptic at heart means that you have a lot to learn. And I definitely admire that when any fellow maker, is very honest about that. Like I'm pretty upfront about my own personal limitations. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Everyone, if you're around me in person for 5 minutes, you know how I'm feeling in that moment. I saw a video the other day of somebody was like, I don't suffer in silence. I suffer in HD. And that is me.
That's funny.
um, you'll get a VM. Everyone knows how I'm feeling. Don't worry. You'll get a VM where I've explained it for over 4 minutes of what I'm upset about that day. But like, I don't know. I love that. Like that authenticity, I think that is so important, especially when
That's
you're creative.
that's my biggest thing, I think, and that's just a through line in my whole life. I don't know where I got this. thorn in my side about it, but I'm very much so if you say you're going to do something, then do it. Represent yourself accurately as to the best of your knowledge, and then also being open and fluid to new ideas and trying things out and to being wrong. Like
Yeah.
you can't learn unless you're okay with failing.
Yeah.
Like you have to fail in order to be a successful maker, a successful partner, a successful friend, a successful business owner. You have to be willing to fail because that's the
Hmm.
only way that you learn. If you go in knowing everything, then why aren't you rich already? I don't know. You know what I
I
mean? Like
know, right?
I think that if you lead, another, a comedian that I listen to says this all the time, but, it just immediately brain farted as soon as I said that. She basically is saying like come from the good light, come from the best light with anything that you're doing, and stay open, and you're gonna find success. And it might look different. And I think being flexible in a lot of things, like when I first started Sewgnar, I had no intentions of being on YouTube, of writing patterns, of really still being in business, if I'm being honest. I never
Yeah.
forecasted out. I was just like, I'm going to jump on this train and I'm going to ride it as long as I can. And I just
Yeah.
hit 8 years. Facebook reminded me the other day that, of my 1 year anniversary. And then so it's now been 8 years, and I could not have fathomed that I would be where I'm at today back then. And that's all because I'm okay with being like, okay, well, let's try this. Okay, I'll go
Yeah.
here. Sure. Sure. I'll do that. Sure. And some of the stuff is like pulling my own teeth, like filming and stuff like that. It's not my favorite, but I'm also very thankful that that's like my job. Like that's my biggest issue. It's like, oh, I have to set up the cameras.
Yeah. Right.
That's a
Yeah.
good problem to have. So,
Yes.
but
It's
yeah, being flexible is huge.
yeah, being open and receptive to new ideas, new opportunities and stuff, and not being so closed-minded. I think that that's so
Mhm.
important, especially when you're starting a small business. You only kind of know like what your core value of what you want out of your business is, and then you figure out how to grow that and achieve that and do all those things. And I think that it just takes time. It takes changes. When I first started sewing, I was sewing little accessories and doing like little pouches and key fobs and things
Mhm.
like that. And that was, I mean, I would say my business really is when that started. But then, so that was in 2019. And now here I am doing something completely different, like
Mhm.
still
You started a damn
related.
podcast. Yeah.
How the hell did that
Yeah.
happen?
I
Um,
mean,
but, but like you have to
'cause
be
you're
open to it. You have to
open.
listen to your
Yeah.
gut. You have
Yeah.
to say, I may not be perfect at it, but I'm going to do it. And I think that that always leads to great things, especially with a creative mind.
And if it doesn't lead to quote unquote success, it leads to a great story, and it leads to, that that's not going to work. It's not a question. You've tried it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that people get so stuck on failing that they're too scared to try anything. And I think that's the biggest hindrance to most people with
Hmm.
everything. It's not just with small business, but you have to be willing to fail. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think the other thing about small business, now that we're kind of on that, if people are listening for that type of information, is you can't compare your today with my today. Like I
Yeah.
have 8 years of
Yeah.
putting, working anywhere from 0 hours to 12 hours in a day. And where I'm at is a result of doing those really bad YouTube videos. Oh my God. I tried to like remix one of my first YouTube videos that went really well. It was painful. I was like, I can't even, I'll
No.
just re-record this. I'm not going to
Yeah, as
like
a matter
try
of
to
fact, let
take
me
this and
just
re-edit
delete
it.
it. Let's
I want to,
delete
but it has so many views that I don't want to. But it was like during the
No.
pandemic, it's so bad. But it's one of my most heavily viewed videos, which is also another indicator that I don't have all the answers because clearly
Yeah.
what I'm seeing is not what other people are seeing. So yeah, those things, it's also being on YouTube and stuff, it's very humbling because you're watching your growth. It's
Yes.
very linear and you're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God."
Yeah,
That
you're
no,
watching
yeah.
the equipment that you gain,
Mhm.
assist
That
in your
yeah.
quality. You're watching your editing improve,
Yes.
and like, it, yeah. I mean, and like when I filmed the Gaia, it took me almost like 2 weeks to do one video tutorial. And I mean, it took me a whole day just to film the 3 minutes worth of intro outro, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I have a really hard time when I'm not conversing, when it's forced, like if it's a
Yeah.
natural conversation, it's way easier. So like lives are
Yeah.
easier. This is way easier. But like me trying to record this segment takes me way too long. I'm too in my head about it. But,
Oh my
um,
gosh, my sister is like dying for me to do a bloopers reel, but I haven't figured out how to only save a certain portion of a video to a separate folder. But yeah, the intros and outros are way harder than I think people realize. You're trying to
yeah,
hit all the points, not say all the time. It's a lot harder than it seems.
it
That's
really is.
something that you don't know until you're doing it either. People are like, "Oh, it's so easy. You just make YouTube videos." I'm like, "Bet. You edit
Yeah.
a 4-hour video into an hour."
Mm-hmm. I used to try and like film the intro outros in just one long thing where I didn't mess up the whole time I was talking. And then I was like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm sorry. I'm going to be
It's
having to
impossible.
clip it together,
Yep.
because I just really messed up how I even said hello, who I am,
Yeah.
like 5
Or like
times.
you
And I
look like
know
a
who I am.
you look like a
Yeah. What am
robot
I
because
doing
of
with
all the
my
editing.
hand? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the YouTube aspect of it is really interesting, and I think I'm very bullheaded about that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But I watch YouTube videos, so I appreciate them. But yeah, the editing and all of that and trying to get everything concise and not stutter stepping, and I mean, yeah, those videos, if it looks easy, it's I don't they're wrong. You're wrong.
Right. It only looks easy because you worked so hard to
Yeah,
present it like that.
yeah.
Like if it ever looks easy, you should assume that it's not.
There's
Like
been like
that's
10
my
takes.
assumption. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love the editing part. I hate listening to myself, editing a 3-hour video. Like that's by the end of it, I'm like, I cannot stand another second of my voice. But
Yeah.
when it's all said and done and I have what I feel like is a concise, presentation of what I wanted, I do feel that sense of accomplishment and like, oh, I did it, and this whole like being
Mhm,
in front of the camera. I've never been someone like, you've been on a form of a stage in the past,
mhm.
I have never been that way. Like honestly, I didn't want to make this a video podcast. I wanted it to just be audio because I was like, I would be even better. But Lauren was like, Shannon, you gotta do video too. And I'm like, okay,
Well,
fine.
yeah, I
You
agree.
know?
I agree with Lauren.
Yeah, I agree too. And here I am doing it. But
Yeah.
it's like being in front of a camera. But I think a lot of that ties back to too is that my lack of self-confidence in that way, like but then like I was just telling my cousin about this last week, I was doing testing with like the setup and the lighting and everything. And I was going through and like editing it. And I was like, I look way better than I expected, than I feel. Like looking at myself on camera, like as if I'm
Mhm.
trying to be like a third party here. I'm like, I'm so proud of myself too that I've grown to
Yeah.
feel that instead of being
Yeah.
like, oh my God, please just blank out my face. You know what I mean? Like,
And
so there's a lot of
instead of
growth
it
that
being
comes too.
painful, yeah, instead of it
Yeah.
being painful, you can look at it with pride. I think that's huge. And I think that is a byproduct of this unnatural staring at ourselves in the
Yes.
camera and talking to I don't know, to whoever wants to listen, but it is unnatural. It's weird and
Yeah.
it's a lot more challenging for different reasons than I think people probably realize. It's you don't usually just talk to a wall, and that's literally what
Right.
we're doing usually. This is a
Exactly.
lot easier, this
Yeah.
conversation, but that is good. I'm proud of you for being proud of yourself to be able to remove your own ego a little bit and be like, you know what? This is solid.
Thank you. Yes, like to give myself a little bit more grace. Like I have
Hmm.
felt that over time, and I think it has to just do with when you have a lot of tiny successes, a little tiny wins along the way. You forgive yourself for things. You have more trust in your gut. See, when I was going to do the
Hmm.
podcast, though, I told Lauren first because I really wanted her feedback on that idea, and I hadn't even told my husband yet. And because I was so unconfident about doing it, my thing was like, I don't even know if I can do it. I know it needs to exist though.
Mhm.
am I okay? Like I say all the wrong words all the time. Like I'll forever, like I'll be talking about something and I will just completely say the wrong word and have no idea that I did that and move on with conversation.
Mhm.
And my son calls me out every single time. It's fun. I love it. Um,
Yeah.
but I told him and I was like, I feel it in my gut. And the last time I felt it in my gut was when I released my first pattern. And before that, the last time I felt it in my gut was when we were figuring out whether or not I should keep going with business because I wasn't making any money. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not ready yet. My gut tells me I'm not ready. And so every step of the way, I have listened to my gut and it's been successful. And I think that that only comes with time and experience. And like one day, I may have the confidence that Niko presents. And like, that's my goal. Yeah. Sorry to
Oh
tell you that.
God.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. Um, so, um, you've been in this business, you said, for 8 years now. And you have seen a lot of makers come and go. You have watched my whole progression since the start, you know?
Mhm.
And so, again, some have come, some have gone, some are still here, some are successful, some are hanging on by a thread. But for those
Literally.
just watching, yes, literally, I couldn't help myself. I really am this way.
Yeah, yeah. I
But,
liked it.
um, do you see like a common thread amongst them to push it even further, the metaphor? Like, can you, like, what do you think has built a strong business in this community? Like, what are some of the core values that you think have really shown through?
Well, I think that my biggest growth point was actually making friends with you guys. So we had these parasocial relationships where over the years we've been following each other. We knew who each other were. We watched each other. We pined over people's stuff. You know what I mean? Like we were jealous. We've done all the things, but from afar. So it was never real. And then we started meeting each other when we started going to conventions. At least for me, that was when all of my people were like IRL in real life. They're in front of me.
Right,
They're
right.
talking to me like I'm one of them. And I'm like, wait, well, like what is happening? And you personify the image and you realize that they're just as nervous as you are and just as scared or having
Mm-hmm.
just as much fun or just as excited. It's so for me, getting to actually know the community has been an integral part of even my growth within it because I used to always say that I was self-employed. I work by myself. I'm my only employee. I I always think this is funny. I'm like, oh, my boss is a real bitch, and
So do I. She
I'm
never
my
gives me
boss.
enough
Yeah,
vacation days.
yeah. And my only worker is super lazy. So it's it's real rough over here. But I always used to say that I was self-employed. But once I started actually meeting everybody, like the Lawrence, I met Saya, Linz, you. I mean, I've met almost all of the makers because we're all the ones teaching the classes at all of these different conventions. And that's when
Right.
I realized I might be self-employed on paper, but I have coworkers. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't, we're not in one office building. And so I think creating true friendships has been really helpful in my longevity in this arena. I think people that have a niche tend to find longevity because you're not competing with everybody. Um, I th- I think true, authentic representation. I think the love of the game is what
Mm-hmm.
keeps people around. Um, it is really interesting how some people seemingly rise to the top and other people don't, even though they've been around longer or they do have a niche or their designs are really good. It's like some people just never get the spark. It's really interesting to see that from this side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't really I don't really know what makes people successful in
Yeah,
it. I
that's fair.
do very much so try to stick in. I try to keep my blinders on because I'm just as bad as anybody else. I will compare. I will say like, oh, this person put out 7 patterns this year and I'm barely scraping by with one. And
Yeah.
so I have to be really cognizant of that because I will get on the guilt shame cycle very
Yeah.
quickly. And as soon as I start comparing myself to other people, and that's just something that instead of comparing, I've leaned more into the friendship side of things, or I'll say like, "Hey, I'm struggling with this." One of my patterns, I was like, "Lauren, I need you to hold me accountable." And I swear to God, she would message me all the time, "Hey, how's that pattern coming?" I'd be like, so because I had somebody on my ass about it was
Yeah.
why I finally did it. I mean,
Yes.
she's half the reason for the series coming out too, because I'm teaching. I actually leave tomorrow morning to go up to hers to teach, but having accountability buddies and all of that. But I guess to answer your question, I don't really know what makes people rise to the top. I think it's a lot of I honestly I don't know. Some things they just catch fire and then everybody seems
Yeah.
to love them. Even if I don't get it, I'll be like, "What? People like that? That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me." But that goes back to that like I don't know everything. Clearly.
True. Right. No,
And I
that's
mean,
fair.
this whole mass of people is seeing something great in this thing that for whatever reason I'm not seeing. So, different strokes for different folks. I don't really know. I just
Exactly.
try to I stick to what I know and I try to be nice along the way. And yeah, I don't know. Did that answer the question? I don't even know what the question
Yeah,
was.
I think you did.
Okay.
You know, one of the questions I had for you, and we kind of talked about this before we hit the record button, was about do you think our community is competitive? And so you had said, "Hey, I'm not really sure how to kind of describe it." And so if I could just kind of refer back to a couple of things you said, like don't compare yourself to another business, and that's something that I have communicated with my friends as well because I've done it for myself too.
Hmm.
Like I've given myself comparison sickness, and that's really hard. Like once you start digging that hole, it's really hard
Hmm.
to get out of. And like I have, but it's easy for me to coach my friends out of it for sure. Way harder to
Yeah.
dig your own hole out of it, and dig
Yeah.
yourself out of your
Yeah.
own hole. But like my friend, she's like, man, they're running this pre-order, they're doing this, and like they must be getting so many sales, and like they're investing all this money here and there. And I just have to remind her, like, you have no idea what is in anyone's bank account. You have no
Hmm.
idea. They can be presenting confidence that is just
Hmm.
way faking it till they make it, and you'll
Hmm.
really never know. And so I will say my opinion about the competitive part of things, and then you can agree, disagree, and whatever. But I think that the community is inherently competitive because we're all trying to sell similar products to the same group of people. So I think that it
True.
is hard to try and define yourself, and in that there is an inherent competition to that. I don't think that it is healthy to take it any further than like that base thought, to be like, I need to. There are some people that do, though, like they're running like this debossed. I need to run this debossed, like they're sewing with vinyl. I have to. I think like when you
Hmm.
combine the fact of our community who we're selling to, all these businesses, with that comparison sickness, that's when the competition comes into play. And that's when it's not
Definitely.
healthy. But I think that there is inherent competition. And I think that in some ways it's healthy. It keeps us growing, keeps us searching and finding. Like the amount of materials that are available now is way different than what was available 5 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that's from that healthy, natural competition.
I think it's interesting too because I think that so I sell two little pieces of hardware. And one of them in particular, as far as I know, nobody else sells it. And I searched high and low for that. And I intentionally don't share what it's called because I want that. I'm not trying to sell D rings. I'm not trying to sell 1 inch rectangle rings. I'm not trying to do that. Now, that being said, I know that Lauren could email her supplier and be like, hey,
Right.
what do you call these? I want to get all of these. And she told me, she's like, I'm not going to do that to you. And I was like, many blessings. Thank you. Please. But so all that to say, like, there are, in my personal business, I'm not trying to step on anybody's feet. I'm not trying to take from other people. I'm not trying to do it because the other person is doing or because it's the quote unquote natural progression. And I see that a lot with smaller businesses, and it's kind of this like American mindset of like more, 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 bigger, bigger, better,
Yeah.
better. Um, and I don't prescribe to that. And it
Yes.
is um a daily thing that I have to remind myself, like, no, I don't need that, because we are so ingrained, especially as Americans, to strive to get bigger, to make more money, to do this, to get a bigger house, get a better car, all this growth. And it was a few years ago that I really sat down with myself, because it was my grandpa. He was like, "Why don't you go on Shark Tank?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Go on Shark Tank with your wallets." And I was like, but they're just wallets. It's not, I didn't reinvent the wheel. It's 8 card slots. It holds money. It's nothing. But he's like, but it's cork. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand. That's a great idea. But like, I have no desire to be that brand. I like where I'm at. I make enough money to live the life that I choose to live. I live in a comfortable home. I can feed my pets. My husband and I can do what we want when we want to, within reason, of course. And so I think it is a daily reminder of like, just because this person is finding success with that doesn't mean that I need to do that. Because with all those pre-orders and with adding all the new webbing and with bringing on a new color of hardware, that's more money out, that's more stress coming in, that's more emails that you have to field. Those are all things that I think people don't realize comes with the territory. As soon as you
Right.
expand into those markets, it's a whole other ball field. And so I'm sure you can
Yeah.
attest to this, but even just being a pattern designer and then somebody who
Yeah.
makes and sells the bags, we field enough as it is just for the digital, how do I download this? You
Yeah.
know? And so
Oh my gosh.
I think that the competitive nature is natural. We're humans after all. We are very much a competitive species. That's how we find success. And I do think that we are ingrained as Americans with this capitalistic mindset. And I truly had to sit down several years ago and I was like, but I don't want that. Like, that's not what I want. And so when I find myself getting in that rat race, like, oh, I need to make more money, or I need to put out another pattern, or I need to bring on a new hardware to make more money. No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And if I just chill for 5 minutes, I will remember, like, I'm already exploding out of this studio. There's no way I can bring on more
Right.
stuff. Like, people ask me, I think the next possible, or the next likely thing for me would be to start selling cork. I'm very, is people know Sewgnar for cork. Even had people just the other day, somebody messaged me, I live in the next town over. Can I come buy cork? Like, I don't sell it. I could certainly, I could 100% start selling cork, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Just even with that comes the shipping, the logistics. I'd have to get different boxes. It's just, so I think it's competition is healthy to a certain degree. Comparison is the thief of joy. Marilyn Monroe. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but I just have to remind myself that I don't need all that. Even if
Yeah.
well, at some point I might think like, oh, because the other thing too is we have so many fantastic sources in our community. I
Right.
can find what I'm looking for
Right.
anywhere. And if I
Right.
can't, then I can ask somebody, hey, where do you get that? I think that's just, I think the competition thing, it can be a good feeder as long as you don't let it overtake you.
Yeah. What you said really resonated with me because, so I went from I was selling a ton of bags. And before I um, released my first pattern, I was making next to no money. Then I released my pattern and I was like, holy cow, I made everything that I made in the last year in the first 2 months um, of
Well, that's
releasing
because
this pattern.
you write really good patterns too. Let the record reflect. That's
Well,
why you find
thank you.
success with
But that
that.
was my
Yeah.
first one. So I was
Well,
like, half of these
yeah.
people don't even know who I am, like what, but it was such a pleasant surprise. And
Hmm.
then I was like, well, let's keep growing, let's keep doing this thing. So then I was like, well, I'll do like 3 patterns a year. And then I went and I took that design and I just was like, or I took the idea of continuously making patterns, but then I followed what my gut said was I want to make it what seems to be like an impossible design, but I want to make it practical. I want you to be able to do it yourself. And that just took so much work and so much, it was exhausting. It's exhausting to continuously perfect something at the same time that you're also dealing with the customer service and, things like that. It was a lot to juggle. And so
Hmm.
I just told myself, okay, well, I don't think I can realistically do 3 patterns a year without like burning myself out, which is what I did. The last year I sold 3 patterns in a year. It was the best year of business I've had so far. And, but it was too much. I was just burnt out. And so recently I saw this quote from Jesse Wells. He's a musician, and I really adore him. And he was on a podcast. I think it was a Joe Rogan podcast. And he was saying how, you know, it's okay. It's okay to find a level of your business that you're comfortable with. It's okay to make enough money to be happy, and then you don't have to push yourself outside of those bounds. And that's something that I had always, I'm one of those people that I have to hear it in the right way for it to really click for me. And that was
Mm-hmm.
the way in which I needed to hear it, because I already made that choice, but nobody had voiced it in that way of like being like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. And I've always, there were a couple of videos I had put up on TikTok that got quite a few views, and my husband and I were talking about it, and he had heard from somebody else before that, like, there are times where you can grow. Once you outgrow the community that you're speaking to or that you are a part of, you bring in a lot of unwanted things to your business, and
Yes.
that's not fun to deal with. And so then the joy you had can get bleached away from it, like, quite quickly. And I like, these are just, my husband and I have a lot of these sorts of conversations. And so it's really great because it helps my brain get where it needs to go. But I also have made that choice for me. Like, could I potentially push out more patterns a year? Yes. Would I hate it? Absolutely. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's too much of a drain for me. And like, I love it, but it also means I will make less money if I make that choice. But I'm okay with that because I'm okay with where I was.
Yeah, we have this idea that if we're not consistently growing, getting better, completing the collection, then we're failing somehow. And
Exactly.
I have not found that to be true. What I have found is that
Yes.
the slow progression keeps my community safe. It keeps it authentic. They are actually cheerleaders. They're not people who are there because they want to see me fail. They're people who want to see me succeed. And I agree with that. And so I had one of those like viral video moments on TikTok. Every time I'd open TikTok, it'd be like thousands of new likes. And I was like, oh, it's happening. And it was so exhilarating and it was so exciting. I was
Hmm.
like, oh my God, this is crazy. I couldn't keep up with the comments. And I was like, it's happening. Like, this is what it's like. Zero sales,
Mm,
$0. It
yeah.
computed to absolutely no money. And I was like, huh. So all those years I wanted more followers. And for whatever reason, I was like, if I can hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, then it'll mean this and it'll mean that. And that happened on TikTok. And I had so much traffic. I spent so many hours responding to people because everyone's, where can I buy this? Where can I buy this? Where can I buy
Yeah.
this? And it literally didn't even equal a pattern sale. And it was such a slap in the face because I was like, that was my plan, was to go
Mhm.
viral. And it
Mhm.
happened. And I didn't go like mega viral, but I went viral enough to where I was like, oh, that is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And so what I've really done in that, it kind of seems like a lot of these lessons happen, they coincide. It's like I'm
Yeah.
feeling this pull to not do this particular thing, and then I get a lesson that that stands up to that, or that
Yeah. It
proves it.
confirms it.
It confirms it. And I think that it confirms further that like I don't need to be rich. I don't
Right.
need, I don't need any of that. I didn't grow up with that. I don't aspire to that. I also Yeah, I don't that like mentality, that mindset, we have to do better, have to do better, have to do better. I
Yeah.
would much rather have a smaller community, like you said earlier when we first started. Small, got big, and then you're weaning it back down because that's what counts. It's quality over
Over
quantity.
quantity. That's
Yeah, and
exactly
that's
it. That's
it's
exactly it.
yeah, and it's community over competition. It's saying like,
Yes.
"Oh, I don't sell that, but you know who does? My girl Lauren sells that. Go to
Yeah.
her." People are like, "Why don't you put out a backpack?" I'm like, "Have you seen all the backpack patterns? Here's a handful of my favorites." Like
Right.
I think that they're just for me personally, what I have found is if I stop trying to keep up with people, I am much happier and much more content, and I can sit in this, I can be happy while it's happening instead of be like,
Right.
man, I wish I would have recognized it.
Right. And the markets that we're a part of, right? The supplies, the patterns, the materials, all those things, like it's already very saturated right now, especially with
Yeah.
the big boom that came from COVID, right? Everyone
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to sew now. And then we had all these people asking for more things, finding these tiny little gaps in what was
Hmm.
available, and everyone filling those voids. And I love that we had that ability and we had a community that was responsive enough to do that. But now we've grown to the point to where it is really hard, truly really hard to even find missing links in what's
Yeah.
available out there. And so that's one of the other, things that I wanted to talk about was like, when it comes to things like this and inspiration, it's really hard in such a saturated market like this. And I think that the saturated market is really great for customers, for people that are sewing for the hobby, because they have so many choices to choose from. I don't know if you feel this way either, but like for me, I have a really hard time finding inspiration now because there's already so many things out there, and that's okay. Like it's enough for me to wait until I feel like I am super inspired. But I'm also one that looks inward, or like there's this animated movie from forever ago called Robots, and one of the slogans was see a need, fill a need. And for me, and I'm like, that's what I want to do, right? I see this hole and I want to fill it. But like, do you find it really hard to source inspiration? And um, do you tend to find it mostly internally, or do you kind of have that combination of the see the need, fill a need sort of thing? Or how does that work for you and your business?
So as far as finding inspiration, I have eyes. I see everything, like I notice it's kind of creepy if I'm vending, somebody will walk by with a really cool bag and I'll like zoom in, take a picture of it because I'll be like, oh,
I
I've
always
never
want to
seen
do
a
that.
zipper. I know. Yeah. Well, that's where my confidence might be too much. Like randomly,
I
I
can
keep their
imagine
face
you
out of it, but
in the
yeah,
airport is.
well, and that's the thing, right? I'm constantly looking at people's
Mhm.
belongings. Like I'll be like, "Oh my God, can I look inside your wallet?" I'm very obtrusive with that too. I'm like, "Oh, can I just open this very personal thing?" People are like, "Oh, sure, okay." I'm like, "Look, I literally don't care about any of the contents. I just need to
I
see the
know.
layout here."
I
So
would be
I
the perfect
do.
person for you because I don't even think about that. Like, why would anybody even be worried about that? Like, go through why would I ever
Yeah,
carry anything
just
that
like go.
nobody,
Yeah,
all I have in there is lip balm, some candy wrappers, my wallet, my phone, and my keys. That's all I
yeah.
have in there.
Well,
Go
I
for it.
mean, there's gonna be dirt, some coins, a couple pens because you gotta stay strapped with a pen for sure. But yeah, I am constantly looking at
Hmm.
things. Now, with that said, it's kind of like, again, referring back to me forgetting everything, it just goes into this file folder in my head. And then I'll be like laying in bed and I'm like, oh, what if I put that with that? I want to try that combo together. And then I'll just literally drive myself crazy until I can figure it out. But I don't like to bring something to market just to bring it to market. I don't
Yeah.
want, I don't I know designers and I love this for them. I think it's really cool. They have a complete collection. They have a tote bag, they have a backpack, they have a this, they have that. And they have gone through all of the different styles and they have something for all of those. And I think that's a really cool way to do it. It's not the way that my brain works because my brain is like, there's 18 tote bags. I'm not gonna
Right.
cut, like, what am I gonna do that's going to bring something cool and different? So when I am specifically designing a pattern, I like to see the need, fill the need, or whatever, or make a different technique or a cool design aspect or something. I'm not just doing it to do it because writing patterns is very time extensive. It takes a lot of mental capacity, drawing all of the diagrams, taking the jumbled mess from here and putting it into words on paper that people can actually understand takes a lot. It's heavy for me. I don't know why. It's a lot of work. Once I sit down and do it, I can manage it, but it's hard for me. It also almost at this point in the day and age with the videos and the diagrams and the projector files and the this and the that and SVGs and yada yada, I almost don't even know why we're writing words at this point. I think that it should just be what I always I always want to put out like skeleton patterns where it's just the pattern pieces and it comes with a video. I would probably put
Like
out,
in leather crafting patterns and stuff, like they do
yes.
that.
Ah, see, I didn't know that. See, I'm gonna have to start watching those. But so that's, I feel like I could be way more prolific in the pattern game if that was the case. But because we have all of these needs and desires that need to be met before we can even put the pattern out, I really shy away from pattern writing a lot. But to answer your question, um, I like to do something different with each pattern design that I personally put out. I don't like to do it just to do it. Um,
Like a new combination or a new technique or like a
something.
new
Yeah, I
shape
want
or something like that. Yeah.
exactly. And I'm not prolific in the way that like you and Ora Rosa and Lavender and Twine, like you three in particular in my mind are very y'all's designs are so creative and very elegant and
Thank you.
new and intriguing. They're very different the way that you guys put your pieces together. And I'm just not that person. And I know that. And I don't really, I don't really try to fill that gap because you guys are doing such a bang up job of it already. So I don't,
Well, thank you.
if people need something ornate and something really, really juicy to bite their teeth into pattern wise, I'm like, that's all them. That's you're just not gonna find that with me. I'm like, I want a very quick project. I like instant gratification. I want something that you just cut, stack, sew. I like
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's totally fair. And I keep telling myself like that. I think that's why I'm in a bit of a rut right now is because like I know that I need to figure out what I'm going to do next at some point. If I want to be able to have income, right? I have to figure something out.
Yes.
That's kind of part of the deal.
Yep.
But I'm like, I need to go down some simple path here. Okay. Cause like after the Rowena and the Adina, I'm like, my brain and the Pisces back, like my brain, it needs to stop being as taxed as I make it, like it's a lot
I was
of
just
mental
thinking about that flow
gymnastics.
chart. I was thinking about that flow chart yesterday, and I was like, how in the world? That's insane behavior.
It took 2 days. It was not fun. I'm
Yeah.
happy with it. And then, okay. So, kind of to go on a tangent. So, when you finally decide what it is that you're going to make, right? And you put all the work in, you have these community standards now that you have to do. You have to have all these things as part of this one cost.
Yep.
Or if you break them down, people get mad at you for breaking them down cost
Yep.
wise. Like, it's like you can't really win. You just got to make a choice and go forward. But then you hear the feedback from all the hard work you put in. People are allowed to have negative reviews. People are not allowed to
Certainly.
not like how a designer writes or whatever. Like, you know, so first to tie it back to what you said before, there's already a billion tote bags out there. Yes, but to quote Lauren, people want to hear how you do it.
Exactly. I struggle with that personally. I appreciate it, but I struggle with that. But continue.
But then, so then you finally make those choices and you put it out there. And then, I think I touched on this with the episode with Lauren is that like people sometimes forget as a human that did all that work. They did all that work because you have kind of asked for that. You expected that. You required that of them. And they did their best. And we're a community of small businesses and small indie makers. And like, we're very small. It's in the
Mm-hmm.
grand scheme of things. And it's really tough sometimes to bounce back from like hearing not so great reviews about your
Yeah,
products or the months of work you put into something. And I think that can also have an impact on inspiration because it's like, "Man, I just want to
definitely.
do this. I just want to make this simple wallet. I want to make this complex bag, but it's, kind of dreading what you're going to hear as a result. Well, I wish you would do this or I wish you would do that. Like, there are people that had things to say that were just in a negative sense, about the podcast, like, oh, that's fine and all, but like it, everyone can have their negative opinions. It just kind of stinks sometimes being on this side of it. Cause again, it is your income. It's what, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to keep people happy. And it's so hard sometimes to find the balance of being authentically yourself, staying relevant and making money. Like that is a big balance that kind of is really hard in a saturated market where you have direct contact with your customers all the time.
It is. And that one negative comment is a game is like a day changer. Like you read it and
Yeah.
I don't know if you're the same way as I am, but I'm a ruminator. So if I hear
Oh, yeah.
and people like because of my green hair, because of my tattoos, they think that because I'm online that I'm inviting comments about that. And those people, can we cuss on here? We can cuss.
Yeah. I've
I
already
mean, they
said
can.
fuck a couple times.
Yeah, they can literally like they can fuck all the way off. I cannot understand that ethos of like, oh, you're public facing, so I can say whatever I want about you. And I don't know if people don't think that we don't read the comments, like who is responding to them if it's not us when we are one person shows. And it is hard. It's so hard to like constantly when you know as soon as you post you're going to get negative feedback and you're like I just know and look how
Yeah.
tiny we are in the scheme of things. I cannot imagine being a celebrity. The amount of mental anguish they must go to just to exist online is wild. But yeah, that definitely makes it harder. um Something that really grinds my gears, especially in particular with pattern making, is as soon as you put a pattern out they're like, well, where's this? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I I just the ink hasn't even dried. Like
Yeah.
let me get my head above water. But yeah, it is hard. It feels like you're just never, for me personally, I never quite meeting the bar. And so what I have learned to do, and I think it's as a defense mechanism, is I've learned to just not get overly involved with a lot of things. And it does help out sometimes in the long run where I'm not like stressing myself out about writing tons of patterns, or I'm like, oh, I'm checking myself out of social media. But I do all those to protect my own sanity because it
Mm-hmm.
is constant. And the bigger our community gets, begets more money, but also begets more headaches. And
Yeah.
mo money, mo problems is not
Yep.
incorrect. That's a real thing. But I struggle with complaining about that because I never thought that I would be where I'm at. And I do really enjoy this job. By and large, I enjoy it. It's a daily stretch for me because it was never my intention to be a pattern designer. Like that's another thing that I struggle with too. And I don't know about you, but I don't like I'm not like inspired. I will see an issue and be like, oh, you know what I haven't seen is that with this and this. And I think that would be a really cool bag, or I think that would be a really useful wallet. I'm very like functional and pragmatic with my
Mm-hmm.
designs. I want it to be useful and look pretty at the same time, but I'm not one of these people that has those like strokes of genius because I
Yeah.
never it set out to do it. So to me, I'm creating this new neural pathway in my brain and it's a constant I'm like constantly like, okay, come on, we got to keep digging it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't come naturally to me. I like to create. I started Sewgnar because I like to sew. And then I became a machine when it came to wallets. I was making hundreds of wallets a month and I was like, there's got to be a better way. And that's when you start to dream up new designs, and then that's where people were like, what's that on your table that I see? I want to see a pattern for that. That's also another way that I write patterns. I'll put something out just randomly. Just I'll be in the
Mm-hmm.
studio. You know those days where you just want to like make it up as you go.
Yeah.
And people see it. They'll eagle eye my videos from vending and they're like, what is that? Like, oh, it's not out. And if I get enough people to ask questions, I'm like, okay, clearly there's a desire for that. And
Yeah.
so then I'll focus on that style. But yeah, the nitpicking of people can really wear, especially on highly sensitive people. I'm highly sensitive, and I think that that might come as a surprise to some people because I can be loud and I can be confident and I can hold my ground, but I cry over everything. I'm a baby. And
No, yeah, no,
so,
I think I picked that up on you. Like, I think the fact
yeah.
that like you advocate, you care so much, you have a big heart. Like I think that that's evidence, and I think that I saw recently somewhere somebody was talking about how like you communicating your boundary is not being mean. You're not being a hard ass. You're not whatever, like you're communicating because you care. You want
Mhm.
people to have expectations that of where they can exist in your space, and you can feel safe and they can feel safe and they can feel like they're respecting your space. And I think that shows a sensitive person, because you could
Mhm.
not care and just be like, man, whatever, like you wanted to be that way, fine, like I think that um there's a lot of sensitivity in that, in that communication, that setting your boundary of sticking to and respecting your own personal boundaries that you've set in your mind for how you want to behave and run your business and all those things. And I think that
Mhm.
is very sensitive. So for anyone that may think that just because somebody is blunt and honest, raising my hand as a person who is that way, I'm very forward.
Mhm.
Although I may probably do it in the most professional way you've ever heard, still going to respect those boundaries for myself because I am a very sensitive person. So sorry, that was a
Yeah.
tangent and a little bit of a
No.
soapbox, but like that, it's like that preconceived notion that just because somebody is blunt and straightforward doesn't mean that they aren't sensitive. Like I feel everything deeply, but I
And it
also
also
respect
doesn't
my boundaries.
absolutely, and it also doesn't make you mean. It's like,
Right.
no, if because I've had to advocate for myself my whole life. So I'm not going to let Susie Q from Wichita tell me that I'm trash because of a $8 pattern. You know
Right.
what like so there are also those times like I will be so nice and I will be so helpful and I truly want everyone to find success, especially with my patterns. I'm not trying to like grift people over $8. But I also like the minute you get nasty with me, that's why I tell people,
Yeah.
even on my thank you email, I'm like, look, say hello if you want. Like, please, I'm a human on the other end of this email chain.
Right.
But I'm also like, I will return the energy I'm given. If you come at me like a spider monkey, I will use punctuation, but I'm gonna come right back to you like a spider monkey. And
Right.
I think that it's also an interesting breakdown because we are almost solely online that people, this like
Hmm.
whole keyboard warrior situation, people think that they can
Yeah.
say and do anything they want. And no, but my sister,
Yeah.
she'll get on my ass about it. Be like, Nicole, you can't talk to people like that. I'm like, did you not read what they said to me? What do you
Yeah.
mean?
It is
Yeah,
tough.
but
Like when people email you when they can't access your patterns. This is a public service announcement for those who will
please,
have maybe that interaction with a designer in the future. When you email a designer, like I can't access my downloads, first and foremost, almost every designer has a FAQ or some sort of resource on their website to help you, assist you in getting that. But if
maybe
you
even on the
cannot find
listing.
that, oh, I have mine everywhere. Literally, I have a specific link at the top
Yeah,
banner of my page that doesn't matter where you go, it's there.
it's there.
Still, even on the contact us form, there's a huge blurb that is in big text that says, before you email,
Yeah,
go to this page. And it's okay. I get it. People have like tunnel vision. They're like, I can't get my stuff I paid for. I'm getting ripped off. Email, please send me my files. And I am totally happy to assist you, but I will not do it for you. Because it is more beneficial for you and for me for you to learn. Okay.
hmm
I'm going to help you learn. I'm not going to tell you how to unzip your file. I'm going to tell you to Google how to unzip your file every single time, as mean as that makes me, because it is 2025, my dude. If you don't know how to unzip a file and you're working with PDF patterns, that's on you. I also spend a boatload of money every year now so that you don't have to unzip your files. But when you contact that designer and you're like, you don't even say anything, hi, sorry, I really tried to find it, but I couldn't. Can you help me? Even if you just ask, can you help me in a nice way? And you don't have to even say you tried that hard. If you just come at it with a good attitude, people are
That's
10 times more willing to
That's
help you.
literally it. That's literally it. It grinds my gears so bad when people are just like, I can't do this. I'm like, okay, you gave me nothing to work with. You didn't send me a screenshot. You didn't tell me your receipt number. You didn't tell me where you've
Which
looked.
pattern is it?
Exactly. Like, you just want me to know? Yeah, I have a hard time with stuff like that. And because I worked customer service for
Right.
years, I was a server, I was a bartender for years. That was my bread and butter. And I can schmooze, I can be sweet as pie. I can also, in the South, we say bless your heart. Like, I can do all of that. If you are rude, don't be surprised when somebody is rude back.
Right. 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 If
Like,
you
it's
can
that
dish it, why
simple.
can't you take it back? Like
Exactly.
you have to you have to understand that if that's what you're putting out there, you are now welcoming it back. Now, because it's unprovoked, right? I
Hmm.
received an unprovoked mean email. So then you've now created the provocation. Here we are.
Hmm.
We are on this train now. But I
Hmm.
will say, like, there have only been a couple times where I have had to get kind of like on my
Sure.
soapbox in an email
Hmm.
and really like put somebody in their place. And I hate that I had to do that. But at the same time, like, you're not going to disrespect me. I'm a human being.
Hmm.
Okay. Like, just because you gave me some of your money does not give you the right to treat me that way. As grateful as I am for my growth, as grateful as I am for my customers and for the support, all of that, I absolutely cannot believe that I am the recipient of that. I will also not allow myself to be talked to in that way, shape, or form, because I wouldn't let somebody talk to my friend that way. So why would I let them talk to me that way? And,
Exactly.
you know, that's just kind of, anyway, that was our long PSA
Yeah,
tangent there.
PSA
But
from business owners, like, don't be an asshole, man. That, well, like what I said
yeah,
earlier,
like,
good begets good. Put out, go with, or just say, hey, just be like, hey, having a hard time. It just doesn't take much. I just don't understand. And I understand everybody's like busy, busy, busy. And I'm not saying that I have not accidentally done it before, like been pissed off about something that I couldn't figure out and I will, get
mm-hmm,
angry. I have done it. And there, it's embarrassing. Like, I've been there, but it's just, man, there's people behind the business. But yeah, at the end
yeah,
of the day, like, I am very thankful. And by and large, our customer base, I mean, I know we all share basically the same customer base. They're fantastic. They're such fun, loving, great community members. They give more than,
it's
or yeah, they
supportive.
give more than they take.
They're so
Extremely
supportive.
supportive. And without everyone's support, I know that I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I think it's just, in this fast-paced world that we find ourselves in, we forget that it's humans on the
Mm-hmm,
other end. Like, we're not AI chatbots. When you're chatting on
right.
my website, that's me. That's me that
So
you're talking
not
to.
everyone knows that because it's hard for me to tell on some websites
Hmm.
what it is. I don't have that turned on my website because I'm very, very, very strict with myself when it comes to any sort of working hour boundaries. Like, I do not respond to emails outside of hours, on weekends, things like that. But I appreciate that people have those things available, but like, I'm just terrified of doing that because I know that I will want to be the person on the other side of that chat. And I
Hmm.
just know that a lot of people assume that it is an AI bot. And I'm just like, I don't want to
It
deal
is
with that. I
hard.
don't know how you do it.
It's really frustrating having to feel like you have to be available at any moment's notice. Now, on my actual website, it's a chat, but it just sends me an email and I can respond to it whenever I get to it. But like
Mm.
Etsy, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Etsy is, oh, so another PSA, if you shop my patterns, whoever's listening to this, don't buy them on Etsy because they're way more expensive. I say it in like the first line.
Same.
Go to my
Same.
website, it's way
You can
cheaper.
find it
And
cheaper.
people still buy it, but Etsy takes so much in fees. But also, if you don't respond to an email on Etsy within 24 hours, you're immediately dropped on the algorithm. And so
Yes.
it's not
And
something
it's a
that we can opt
ratio
out
based
of.
thing.
Hmm.
So, like, it's really, so let's say you get 10 emails in a month, and one of them you didn't respond to in 24 hours. So that means that you're 90% efficient in responding, right? And so they want you to be 95%. So I don't get a ton of Etsy messages. So if
I
I
don't
let
either.
one of the 8 that month go past 24 hours, that's when they flag you. And it's a
Yep.
ratio thing. And then you're done for like 3 months or something like that. Like, it's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
I'm so sorry to interrupt the episode again, but Niko and I thought that it was really important that we included this disclaimer in the episode at this point. So, between the time that we recorded the episode and we released the episode, I had received an email from Etsy. That email stated that I had a seller violation on my account, and one of my listings had been deactivated for having that text that forwards people to my website on my listing. They essentially told me that that listing is dead. It's not coming back. And then the other listings needed to be fixed as well, or else I would get further violations. Further violations have their own consequences. I don't know about those yet, but I wasn't trying to find out. So I immediately changed all of those. But just so you understand what happened, so that pattern that they deactivated was the one that I have sold the most of. So they took my best-selling pattern, which is my Tuesday tote. They deactivated that listing, so I can't reactivate it with that bestseller tag on it. So I don't have the stats on that. And other people, when they read reviews, they won't read reviews of that specific product, even though it looks the same now. It's just a completely different listing. I also lost my star seller badge, which means I have lost, I'm lower in the algorithm, and I have a seller violation, which means I'm also lower in the algorithm. So all of those things took away from my income. Which again, I have nobody to blame but myself. It's my own fault for not following their policies. However I feel about it, that is the fact, and I accept that, and that's okay. Not fun, but still. Anyway, I communicated this to Niko right away. I even forwarded her the email, and we wanted to make sure that you knew, as a listener, that this is a potential to happen to you if you take this route again. I believe Niko changed her text on her listing so she doesn't have to run into this issue, but it's something for you to keep in mind. And we didn't want to just give out a bunch of bad information without the disclaimer that if you chose to take that path, this is a potential situation you can find yourself in. It's kind of unfortunate, but also good timing for it to happen. I would have hated for it to happen a week after the episode where I can't really reach all of you again in a really easy way, or have to release an entirely separate episode to just have that disclaimer on there. Anyway, I'm so sorry to interrupt. It was really important that we put that information out there for you to know. So back to the episode.
Yeah, Etsy is nutty. But so that all that to be said, I have a hard time with that work-life balance, with splitting my time, because I have my email on my phone and I have my website host app on my phone. And in the same way that I check like Instagram, Facebook, and all of those, I'm checking email, Wix, YouTube, Patreon, like I have my routine. And so I have considered taking it off my phone and then just doing it on my laptop, because then
Yeah.
I'm not accessing it when I'm out and about, because that's what'll happen to me. I'll get a nasty email when I'm out with friends, and I'll
Yeah.
just, not even realize it, pick up, check my email. The email's the first thing on my phone, and I always check it because I do appreciate a quick response as a consumer. And so I try to be that, but I am so sensitive that if something is bad, I tunnel vision, I have to get it
Yeah.
solved. And if it gets nasty or they're rude, then it just kind of like spins me. But so I have a hard time with managing that. And I'm constantly like, oh, I'm gonna take a month off Instagram, and I do. Like I'll just delete it off my phone and I'll not post. And then other times I have more self-control and I'm not just like doom scrolling. But it's so
Mm-hmm.
hard. There are so many aspects of the small business world that I detest. And one of them is having to feel like you're constantly accessible and open to other people's opinions. I don't like that either.
Right. It is tough. A lot of people don't know this, but I have hired someone to kind of take over my Instagram and my
Nice.
TikTok. It is not cheap. It is a conscious effort to, hope that I make enough money to be able
Yeah.
to afford that. But it wasn't getting done. And even now, like I'm supposed to be doing stuff to give this person content. And
Mm-hmm.
even that is tough. And while I'm not, like, if I'm sewing a bag actively, you better believe I'll have my camera down and I'll record a couple of videos. It'll be fine. But if I'm not doing that, or from the midst of pattern designing, like, it's also hard to have that content consistently, and I just don't
Mm-hmm.
do it. And so, like, it was funny. I had given this person this little video of me like sitting down, like, oh, I'm supposed to do content, so let me do this content, and they posted it on TikTok. And I found out 27 days later, because that is how infrequently I open my TikTok app. I had no idea, because I was talking to my cousin. She's like, I love your haircut. And I'm like, I'm complaining about it. I was telling her the story about my haircut. She's like, I already knew you had it. I was like, when did you see that? And she's like, oh, at the beginning of October. And I'm like, I had no idea, because I
Yeah.
don't check it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's tough. The social media aspect for me. If I didn't have a business, I wouldn't have social media. That's where it's at for me because I don't. I'm very introvert. I'm a homebody.
It's
I'm a
it's
hermit.
well, and I think too, there's a reason why you can hire a content creator. It's a whole other job.
Yes, yes.
Go back to I like to create, I like to sew. And so because I like to sew, now I go on weekends and do a pop-up shop and I'm, manually doing like setting up a storefront and then I'm also designing patterns and I'm also doing, there's so many hats and content creation is a whole other aspect of it. It's a whole other beast. And that's even beyond YouTube and editing those videos, but on top of that, you want me to do reels and TikTok
Mhm.
and then it goes to show, the one time that I started going a little viral on TikTok, I was like, well, this doesn't even mean anything. So I don't even try there. I started, it's not viral by any means, but a lot more views than normal on one of my Facebook reels because my Instagram's linked to my Facebook, whatever. I finally checked my business Facebook and it had like 300 comments. And I was like, oh, oops. And they were all like, "Where can I get the sewing pattern?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, my bad." But I think those people that really want to find it though, that whole like not holding your hand and I'm going to teach you how to help yourself so that you can find it. That's it. That I don't necessarily feel bad about not responding to every single comment, but I am one of those people that if there's a notification on my phone, I have to check it. I can't have the red dot. These people out here with 26,000 emails on their phone start a new email address. Like throw that one in the trash.
Yeah,
I could never.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't settle with that. But yeah,
I
social
have
media
my
media is crazy.
it's really tough. I'm good with emails. Like I will give myself grace. I'll give myself, maybe a day or two to respond if things are really crazy for me, but like I always have a limit. And like there are times where like I try to keep all my new emails on unread, so I only have like one or two unread emails ever at a time. Um and I might accidentally forget to hit that little button that says, mark as unread so that it reminds me the next working day and I'll forget. And then it'll be like 3 days later and I'm like, well, I'm
Oop.
pretty sure somebody sent me an email. I should go
Yeah.
find that. But like other than that, like I have forced myself to really find that work life balance. And that's mainly because my husband, when we first had my son and he switched positions, like he would come home from work and like he just needed like 10 minutes to like switch to home mode. Like the drive
Mhm.
wasn't enough. He still felt like he was working it. So we had that adjustment that we had to learn for ourselves. And so when I started my business a few years later, I always thought about that moment, that reality that we had to face of like, we need to find a balance here and respect that balance. And so that's really tough too. And it's really hard when your phone is always there and you're always kind of accessible. You want to provide
Mhm.
people avenues in which to contact you, but I think that it's important that you don't give them direct access to you at all times, which is why I'm like a total hard ass when it comes to PMs, which is crazy
Mhm.
also because I know that not everyone else is like that. So I will PM somebody else business stuff, which seems so hypocritical, and I recognize that. But I also know that I'm a bit of an outlier in the like, don't freaking PM me. I
I
hate
tell
that
people
I'm
they
kind of
still
like,
do.
I know, and I will ignore them. I don't respond.
That goes back to having the alert. I even have like all my notifications shut off on Instagram. I have it like removed from my phone. I have to like scroll over on my iPhone to where it lists all the apps, which I didn't even know could do that. I'm such a boomer in that regard when it comes to my phone. But yeah, I don't know. This might be inspiring me to try removing my email, um, at least for like a month, just because it is so crazy. And I will whoopsie daisy right into a puddle of fun in an app and then it'll be an hour. And I will be like, oh, I could have been using this time way more productively. And,
Yeah.
so I have to be very
Why I don't
careful
have
of
TikTok.
that. TikTok is so good though. But yes, I have to be very careful with TikTok. I only watch it at night, and I'm very, very strict about my TikTok usage. But any of the apps, I mean, I'll get on YouTube. I can get lost. I can get lost in my house if I'm being quite honest. Like Brandon will come home from work and he'll be like, "Oh, okay, here's that." It's I call it little fires. I just have like little fires everywhere, and eventually I'll come back around and close the loop. But I'm very much like a ping pong ball in a small room when it comes. to working from home, but eventually I get most things done. But I mean, if I didn't have this, I call it my brain book, but my planner, I live and die by my planner. I can't do anything without it because I forget everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it has everything on it. I'm actually trying to design my own planner because why wouldn't I? But to be
Right.
exactly what
Another
I
little
want it to
fire.
be. Exactly. And designing planners is really hard work. It's hard to do the layout, but yeah, it's that work-life balance is really hard for me. I have a very, very hard time switching off because I feel like my studio is in the house, so why wouldn't I be working all the time? And
Right.
I like having it in the house because when I am in a state of flow, I can, stay in the studio, or if I have a show coming up, I can work all night, and I'm good about doing that stuff, and I like that. But I have a hard time turning it off when I don't want to
Yeah.
work, or if I'm sick, or if I'm traveling. For example, I decided to make myself a bomber jacket literally the night before I left for
Who
Washington.
doesn't do that? Like, are you a maker if you don't make something
Exactly.
within X amount of hours of going on a trip? Like,
Exactly.
I'm
And
not
had
sure
I
what that
packed,
is about our
no.
brains, but
Yeah,
it,
I'm
it
like, I
has to
can do this.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, it's supposed to take me 10 hours. I have 11 hours. There's no way it's going to take me longer than that. Like, no, we all lie to ourselves for some reason. Whenever
Yeah.
it comes to go on a trip, I don't know what it is, but I love that we all do it collectively and individually. It's really awesome.
And
But,
of course, that's when
um,
the serger stopped working and all of that too. So,
right,
yeah.
exactly. Or you have next to no thread, so you're playing bobbin chicken for that one color
Yep.
that you just committed to using.
Yeah.
It's tough. It is tough, but the work life
Hmm.
balance is hard, and I think that like for me, I just knew. I went into the pattern business like I understand. Somehow I saw it. I saw the customer service requirements ahead of time. And so I just really got in front of that. And so, like, the only app that I have push notifications on are for some things for my Facebook group and my email. And other than that, I don't really get any push notifications except for like from personal stuff. And like, you can label people as like priority people in your phone. And it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
will get notifications for them. Otherwise, I don't see it till I open my phone. And I'm just really, really particular about that, which means I don't have a big social media presence nowadays because I don't engage with it that much. I just I like to exist without being on display most of the time as I sit here and
Hmm.
film myself in a podcast. So
Well, this is
I'm not
work.
sure. This is work. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully one day it becomes paying work. Right now, it's fun work, and I love the fun work. I wish I could do all my work for free because it's way more fun that way, in my opinion.
Well, yeah,
It's nice to get paid.
monetizing hobbies is a double-edged sword
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yes, it makes it harder. So as we are at that time to probably wrap up, because I'm sure we could talk all day. I mean,
Probably. Yeah.
100%. Enjoyably so too. Like commiserating, I love all that stuff. Okay, like if you've got nothing to say, sit next to me, please. But if you have something nice to say, that's what this next part is. I have said a couple of them throughout the podcast of like I love little like one liners that help me get through the day. And I don't really have any end of podcast segments, but this one kind of came to me with my chat with Lauren. And I thought it would be a good thing because I want to hear them. So it's a selfish thing. But do you have any like mantras that you tell yourself? Like the one that I use a lot for myself that's different from the one that I told Lauren so that we get different ones at least every once in a while was precision work yields precision results. It's very indicative of me and how I do
Uh-huh.
things. Right. And so it reminds me to like take my time, do it right the first time, measure twice, double check, don't take the shortcuts for me personally, because that's just how my brain works. But what about
Hmm.
for you?
I'm gonna mess it up, so I'm just gonna look it up. I'm gonna Google it. I don't have like one-liners per se, but I just recently hiked a section of the Appalachian Trail with my husband. For some reason, we thought that this was going to be a great way to celebrate our anniversary. And it was, but it was hard. It was
Yeah.
literally a challenge every single step of the way. And all of those like cliche sayings, like one foot in front of the other, progress over perfection. They were all true. And
I
it
know.
also, it's like once you insert yourself into a challenging thing, the only way out is through. And so I think that experience, and I kind of talked about it at the end of the video. If anybody wants to watch me die on a mountain, literally, not literally, but you know what I mean. I talk about it at the very end of the video, and it just, I remember in when I was in like mired down, it was literally with 30 pounds on my back, walking uphill and a seemingly uphill that never ended. I felt like Icarus with the boulder. I was like, this, I mean, every single step forward is toward the goal. Like
Hmm.
literally, it doesn't matter how big, how small, how many times you have to rest, just that forward motion gets you closer to what you want. And so I think in that moment, I was like, I'm going to take this and apply it to my everyday life. And it's true. Like any step toward the goal is positive. And so I think
So
that that's a big one for me.
you don't have any children yet, correctly? Or whether you plan to or not, but you haven't given birth, correct?
I have not.
That mentality is the only thing that got me through my birth story, like my labor of my child. And so I said all those cliche things to my cousin who just had her baby. So it's the second baby of that generation for my family. And so my son and that baby are almost 11 years apart. So, I have had some time in and there's been a break. And so I just was like, I know this is so cliche, but like it will pass. You'll get there. The only way to get through, get to the end is to just get through it. There's no
Hmm.
other way. You're not getting out of it. It's
Yeah,
so I think that like I hate how much the cliche things are correct when they are correct,
true.
but they are, and they are important to keep in mind.
Absolutely. I was privy to my youngest niece's birth. My sister let me in the room with her. Um, and let the record reflect, I would love to have kids. We just haven't been successful in that like realm of things. It's not, I mean, I absolutely loved it. That's why I was a teacher for so long. But I got to see baby Joelle born, and my sister in the throes of labor, she was saying, I can do anything for 30 seconds. And that has really stuck with me as well. And I don't know, that doesn't necessarily translate to sewing, but it more so translates to like when I'm forcing myself to go on a run for whatever reason I'm trying to
Yeah.
do that now. Those types
Or
of
like if
things,
you're in front of the camera, something like that. It
anything
could
for,
apply to that.
well, most recently getting my new tattoo on the back of my leg, which really, really hurt. I was like, okay, 30 seconds. But yeah, there all of those like things about having tenacity and just moving toward the goal. But the one that I have heard a bajillion times, that I really like, that I do remind myself of, especially in the studio, is don't let perfection get in the way of good. Is that what it is? I think that's what it is. I just looked it up. I think that's right. But it's like, don't, it doesn't, your first time's not going to be perfect. Like, just try. Keep trying. You're going to get better. Don't, it kind of goes back to that whole comparison thing. Like, just stay in your own lane.
Yeah.
I got certified to ride motorcycles several years ago, and the motorcycle instructor was like, ride your own ride. Don't look to your right, don't look to your left, don't look down because you'll fall. Like, keep your head up, keep your eyes where you're trying to go, and ride your own ride. And so I think like all of those silly little cliches, they really do at the end of the day, they're true, as annoying as it
Yeah.
is.
No, that's totally fair. And I think what you said, don't let perfection get in the way of good, and it's that whole like, again, make it exist and then make it better, take the leap of faith.
Exactly.
Just start. Your growth,
Exactly.
your progress, your success will happen with time, but it will never happen if you never start it, if you never do the damn
Exactly.
thing.
Don't let
So
failure get in the way of trying.
exactly. Yeah. Like try. I really think the whole cliche thing of like failure is just learning opportunities 100%. I
Hmm.
now know why that doesn't work and I won't do
Yeah,
that again. Like I have
exactly.
learned. I might need to do that a
And
couple times before I learn, but I'll get there eventually.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes you got to
Um,
touch the stove. Sometimes you just have to
right.
learn the hard way too.
So how can people leave little red dots on your phone? How can they reach you?
Oh, oh, I was like, what? Oh,
Sorry.
so
I can't help myself sometimes.
as we just learned, I'm very accessible. But email is the most direct way. So gnarly@gmail.com, or you can use the contact form on my website. It comes directly to me. I do prefer that over anything because I do forget things. It helps me stay organized.
Hmm.
So those are my preferred ways, email or Instagram DM if you must. But
But for
I will
following
get back
you,
to you. Oh, at Sewgnar on every platform, YouTube. Oh, I have a Patreon, which is a lot of fun. Um,
you could
usually
tell us a
post
little bit more about
weekly.
that.
Okay, so I Patreon is a subscription base, which I now know that the podcast has one too, but it's a subscription based membership essentially that grants you access to, in my case, to me, if you want to DM me, we have group chats going in there. We have like you can share your pets and you can share your projects and ask questions, things like that. And then all of my patrons get a handwritten note. I taught myself how to do calligraphy to write them.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was fun. But so you get a handwritten note, and then based on your tier level, you get discount codes. And then, of course, my patrons are my sounding board. Everything goes through them. Y'all help me. They help me name my patterns. They see all my videos first and ad free. Just every single thing that I have going on, the patrons are my
So they
crew.
have a
So
big hand in it, which is pretty cool.
everything. The patrons help me with content, with everything that you see come out. I 98% of the time I filter through them first to get their feedback. And
It's awesome.
they're actually, yeah, they're very, very helpful. I love that crew. So if you want to join there, you can. There's different tier levels starting at $4 and up. But then, of course, all of my videos and things are available on YouTube after they go live in Patreon. And that's it. Yeah, all the usual suspects. Patreon, YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be on them or when I'll be on them, but I pop in and out.
No, that's good. Well, at least people have avenues in which to find you, which is the goal, right? And then you
I'm
can
around.
respond to them at your will, which is also the goal. So thank you.
Probably be
Well,
immediate, but yeah.
not for me.
Yeah.
You'll probably get a heart. I like your comment. I am thankful. I'm just I can't. It is, but anyway,
I love
thank
it.
you,
That's
Niko.
great. Yes, thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.
I'm so proud of you for starting this, and I'm so excited. You have no idea how excited I am to watch all of these and to really learn. I'm super stoked to see your lineup. I'm very thankful that you chose to have me on. I really do appreciate it. And throughout all of this whole journey of Sewgnar, I've gotten a lot of pleasure out of getting to know you as just a human, and I just appreciate your
Yeah.
friendship.
Thank you. Thank you. Same. You were everything that I wanted you to be and more. And so you are absolutely a treat. And I mean, you're episode 2, and you are top of my list. So I'm so glad that you were able to do this and chat, as long as we have, it's absolutely amazing. I really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I look forward to having you back.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation. I said in the intro that Niko and I could have talked for another hour or two. And actually, when I hit the stop button, we continued to talk for another 15 minutes. So truly, her and I could have sat down and talked for another few hours. Easy. But of course, we had to end it somewhere. But truly, I really just wanted to pick her brain about various parts of our sewing community and owning a business. I feel like she's carved her own unique path, which has been of her choosing and following, her own moral compass and not seeming to fall victim to um, various societal norms and pressures and trends and all those things, right? She sticks to her own choices. She stands by them and she just moves forward and she's content doing that. And I think that is just so extremely admirable. I think that's the exact thread that I want to keep pulling as we progress through this season. I want to explore each person's strengths and just see how they've taken those strengths and they've harnessed them and accepted them and then allowed them to shine through in their business. Kind of tying that personality to that business and just seeing how that connection happens, seeing how people embrace it, and seeing how it works out for them, truly. With all that said, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing the show. Also consider hitting that follow button or that subscribe button so that you continue to show others that this is something worth listening to. If you'd like to support the show, there is a link to the Patreon in the show notes, so feel free to click that and learn more. One of the perks for the $10 tier is the Seam Society shoutouts. And so without further ado, we'll get into that. Tara Vaughn, thank you so much, my fellow Dungeon Crawler Carl fan. Terry Dooney, thank you so much for your support. Jessica Almendarez, many, many thanks. Hua Vang, thank you for your support. Nicole Hooker, thank you so stinking much. Olivia C., thanks for supporting me. Stacy K. Brennan, thank you for supporting the show. Alicia F. is for thanks for freaking supporting me. And Jabby Sanders, thank you so much for supporting the show and for supporting me for all these years. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and until next time.